Before we step into our today's lesson, let's recall the previous lessons. We talked about the doer and the receiver of the actions. We identified two main voices. We discussed main things when changing active voice into passive voice. I also mentioned the verb patterns of passive voice, using objective pronouns and dropping the agent. These are the basic things to remind for changing active voices into passive voices. You can apply them to construct passive voice. If you haven't seen any of the videos before in this lesson, you can click on the letter I at the top of this video and watch the videos from the card or click on the links in the description area. Let's start our lesson. Forming the passive is the last step of voice change. Let's see how they are formed. We can use the passive voice in the tenses. Today, I've taken these tenses to explain simple present, simple past and simple future. First, we'll take the simple past tense. Passive sentences in the simple past, affirmative form, have this structure. Now, study this passive voice sentence with the structure. A rat is the subject in the passive sentence. The subject, a rat, is singular. We use the singular past tense form of the verb be, was, and the past participle was killed of the verb. As I mentioned earlier, when changing active voice into passive voice, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. The subject of the active sentence becomes the object of the passive sentence, generally preceded by the preposition by. This is the example of a negative sentence. The negative sentence is formed by adding not. Study the examples carefully. He did not buy a stamp. This is the negative form of active voice sentence. We can write the negative form of passive voice sentence in this way. The stamp was not bought by him. This is the example of interrogative form of passive voice. Did he clean the window? It is the interrogative form of active voice. Was the window cleaned by him? Is the interrogative form of passive voice. You can study these examples carefully and do the given activities. Now we take the simple present tense. Passive sentences in the simple present tense affirmative form have this structure. Look at this example. Now study the passive voice sentence with the structure. Notice how it is formed. Here we use the singular present tense form of the be verb is, and the past participle is written of the verb. Here's the example of the negative sentence. Negative sentence is formed by placing not before the past participle of the verb. This is the example of interrogative form of passive voice. Do you see the bird? Interrogative form of active voice. Is the bird seen by you? Interrogative form of passive voice. Study the examples carefully and do the activities. Finally, I'd like to explain the simple future. Passive sentences in the simple future tense affirmative form have this structure. Study this passive voice sentence with the structure. You can see the passive is formed by using will be and the past participle. This is the example of the negative form of passive voice sentence. This is the example of interrogative form of passive voice. Study the examples carefully and do the activities. Here, I've given you a tense summary chart. Study it and learn to change active voice into passive voice. It's quite clear. Now you all know what active and passive voices are. We'll meet again. You can get the PDF of the lesson from the link in the description area. Thank you.